Good morning, everyone. Kate and Fiona here with you for our final Facebook Live of 2020. What a year it's been, and it continues to be. Fee, you're up on the northern beaches, so in lockdown.
I know. Who would have thought, all of our Christmas plans and January plans all scuttled, everything different. Just kind of readjusting, adapting, which we've all had to do all year. Finding that I've got a lot of time now to do some of the things that I'd love to do, like clean out the office and different parts of the house. And that's all quite lovely, actually, to be able to start 2021 with a fresh slate. So we thought that's where we'd go today. We thought we'd talk about what's up for 2021 for all of us. What are we going to do to make this a year that we can really look back on and feel joyful and fulfilled no matter what happens, even if it's all the things we'd love, but obviously things are going to happen that we don't love. How are we going to respond to that? How are we going to turn up with our confident selves no matter what comes at us? And one of the places we often start with New Year, we talk about resolutions, Kate. And, I might have done that a very long time ago, but I think most of us know that nearly all, I think it's something like 98% of resolutions have fallen over by the end of January. So that word in itself almost comes quite heavily, feels quite, difficult. And the word that we really love and we think is really good to think about when you're starting your year is, what are your intentions? What are your intentions for 2021? And as you think about that, how are you going to show up? Who are you going to be, and how will you show up in each interaction, no matter what comes at you as we launch into the new year?
Yeah, I think now is a really fantastic time. It's one of my favorite times of the year to really circle around this work, both the reflecting on the learnings and the growth from 2020, and then looking into the new year. And starting to really set that intention. Now, I've done loads of different processes over the years with regards to, goals, intentions, all of those sorts of things. But I think this piece of starting to think about, what do I want it to look like? And I think not just in terms of what I achieve, but to your point, and that we talk about be, do, have, right? How do I want to be? What do I need to do? And what will I have? And just really starting to, I kind of use, it's like using colored pencils, right? To start to sketch out an outline of where I want to focus. We know that the attention always is, what am I choosing to focus on and what am I choosing not to focus on? So both of those orientations are really important. But starting to sketch out, and I know from my own personal experience, and it's something on my piece today, is, looking back and almost looking at that and going, okay, what have we achieved and what haven't we? And inevitably, there's a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't in the plan that we've achieved, and a whole bunch of stuff that perhaps got reprioritized or pushed to the side as well. So I think, this intention and it not being a finite process, but it being something that you circle around. I mean, this is something that you and I do and will mull over and ruminate on for a couple of days and have already started, some of the practical parts of it a couple of weeks ago. But that it's not something you sit and do in an hour, that you really sit with it, lean into it, and really align at all levels, right? On an emotional, a mental, and a physical level, so it feels right.
Yeah, I love that. And I love this idea that it's not something I have to do fast and quickly, because what we know, and even some of the best things that come to us are iterative. Sort of, we have a think about it, something else drops in, the next phase comes, and if we just allow space and time, which we have, more so than ever, or I certainly do at this time of year, to let things emerge, what emerges is often more profound and more impactful than if we just kind of rush at this and sort of do the doing without sitting in the being for a while. And so as you do this, one of our questions we like to always, as you said, is, what worked really well for you? What were the things that you can harvest for 2020? What are the insights? What are the practices? What are the relationships? What are the things that you look at and you go, wow, that really stood out as something worthwhile. I want to do more of that. I want to encourage that. I want to have more of that in my life. And that's a really good place to start.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing, and we were just kind of catching up before going live. One of the things I've done is, my morning walks are much more part of my routine. I never listen to podcasts or anything in that time. That is time for me to kind of free process. And I really protect that. It's a number of times I'm like, oh, I might just listen to that Brené podcast, but I actually always make a conscious choice. No, this is the time to allow that unconscious processing and for things to drop in as well. And so I think, as I was reflecting yesterday, I was out walking for a bit. I was like, no, that's something that's been so useful for me in terms of being able to process some of the thinking, but also to allow space and time for things to drop in.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, the one of the questions that we like to focus on each year, and we're always, in the process of learning something, what is the next step for us in terms of our personal and professional growth? And as you think about 2021, what are you consciously going to choose to learn? What is it that's going to, expand your world, grow your capability, and really how will that impact the whole of your life? Sometimes we're doing something and we think it's professional, but it ends up having wonderful personal ramifications, impacts too. And sometimes it's the other way, right? We start out with something and we think, oh, that's a personal thing I'm doing for myself, but actually it spills over into the professional. I think just being really conscious of where I can learn is an exciting thing to get clear on as we head into the new year.
Yeah, and I think the final question that on some level aligns with that a little bit is where will you stretch? If we think about, we always talk about, small acts of confidence. And so it's not huge, big acts that feel uncomfortable, feel difficult, often trigger intense fear. It's, where will you stretch into in terms of maybe showing up in life, in terms of kind of being, and of course, there's the learning part is part of the resourcing piece that is stretching into something. And really just thinking about it, it's almost kind of that outcome piece of, where will you stretch? What's that part? We don't need to do, we don't need to stretch in every part of our life, but starting to think about, and the wheel of life in chapter 3 of the book is a great process to be able to look at, okay, well, where am I at right now? And then, okay, where am I choosing to stretch? And, we know it's going to be stretched because it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to feel like, it's not a slam dunk. This is something that's going to feel a little bit often in our body, right? You talk a lot about this a lot.
Yes, yeah, that sense of really tuning in and calibrating for yourself. What is it that I'm learning? What's my body telling me now? How can I better respond to and work with the intel that my body's giving me? And we're so used to rushing and processing things through our brain, which is incredibly valuable. And if we can combine that with all our other intelligences from our body, from our gut, from our heart, we are incredibly well resourced to meet all of the challenges and to actually, really find our sources of power as we head into the new year.
Yeah, so 2 great chapters of the book. I think if you're reflecting and doing some planning for 2021, set goals and take action. So chapter 3, and then the piece around the intelligences fee, which is that in Be Focused and Present or Be Authentic? I was like, I think it's Be Focused and Present.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to leverage all the different intelligences in the body to be able to help guide you, right, through this process. You and I have done a lot of intuitive work over the years to really hone that skill. But I think let's not just make this a cognitive process. Let's really layer in. And that's why the beauty of circling around this for a couple of days, even weeks, can be really useful. So you land on something that you feel in your body that is aligned with where you want to go. And, then it's all about taking action, and we can talk more about that next week. So on that note, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful New Year's celebration, whatever that looks like for you. I know it's going to be different for everyone. And we look forward to seeing you next week for our first Facebook Live of 2021. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to share it with anyone in your network who could benefit. And of course, if you'd like to go deeper with your relationship with Core Confidence, head over to the website coreconfidence.com.au.